OldGuyTalks.com is all about being a better man. Join me on this kick-ass journey. Exclusive stuff for members only in the Old Guy Cave. Opt in now. All right, folks, this is Oris the Old Guy from www.oldguytalks.com here with you tonight with our special guest, Daniel Marshall, the iconic creator of Humidors and Cigars. That's right, folks, iconic creator of Humidors and Cigars. But before I do get into my interview, I do want to remind you, if you have not already opted in, do so now. When you do, you're going to get I'm going to tell you 3 ways of how to get laid more often without begging. That's right. You don't have to turn in your man card. This is surefire ways, and I guarantee results when you do. And if you have any problems with that, PM me, and I'll tell you what pathetic bastard you are because you weren't able to pull that off with my 3 secrets. So, folks, tonight, I have Daniel Marshall, Daniel Marshall's Cigars and Humidors. So, first of all, I'd recommend, I'm going to put the link in the notes here to his website. If you go to his website, get a cigar, a big-ass cigar. I'm smoking a Daniel Marshall Churchill right now. Get a nice glass of scotch. I'm drinking Glenfarclas 25-year-old scotch tonight, special occasion. And look at his website. It is like it's very interesting. Lots of cool shit on there. Lots of great stuff. His client list is a who's who of people in the world, names that you're going to recognize, names you're going to see on TV, in politics in the world leaders, and absolutely amazing. And his humidors are, they're works of art. That's the man is an artist. They're works of art, and they're absolutely incredible. And just spend some time on his website, and of course, click on the links to follow him on Facebook and the other social media when you do so, because it'll be well worth your time. So, Daniel, you grew up on an avocado farm, and so tell us briefly to what happened from that time on the avocado farm right up until 1982 when you started your journey here. What got you into this whole area of humidors and cigars?
With pleasure, Orest. It's great honor to be on your show and talk to your viewers. And hello, everybody out there. Really happy to meet you. I wish we could all meet in person, and we should plan that at one of our special campfire events. But what you said earlier to preview the show sounds much more interesting than what I have to say about cigars and humidors. I think we all want to hear the secrets you have to tell us. How to get all the action in.
No, you gotta opt in. You gotta opt in.
Sounds great. Well, second best thing is to learn, I think, about cigars and be able to enjoy cigars with our buddies and our friends and our women friends. And it's such a universal joy and privilege and pleasure, I think, to be able to enjoy a fine cigar. And I call it the modern day campfire. It's something that we all can enjoy. I think it's always interesting how it brings everyone together and we all feel one and one group, one team. And I always thought, well, as I'm lighting it and burning it and the smoke comes out, I'm thinking it's definitely the campfire. It's in our DNA. It's something that makes it really unusual and special, that whole bonding that goes on. It doesn't really happen with anything else besides a cigar in the same way. So that's why I say it's a pleasure to meet everybody at the Modern Day Campfire. So my story started in Malibu, California. I was a surf bum. And I wanted to never go in business, have no responsibility. I wanted to sail around the world. The last thing I wanted to do is do anything in the commercial world, because I really love sailing and surfing. And I sailed to Tahiti on my father's boat when I was 10. Mm-hmm. So what led me up to the accident of being in the cigar world when I was 18 years old was when I gave my girlfriend's grandfather a gift. And he was always very enthusiastic about my boat and about the dream. And one evening, I was really excited to tell him my boat's almost done. See, I started to save for my sailboat when I was 10 years old.
Wow.
And I bought a 40-foot hull, West Sail 32, actually, and it was empty. And so I had to build the interior, put the ballast in the flooring and everything. and the engine, and I was ready to put it in the water. And so my girlfriend's grandfather was really excited to hear the progress of the boat. And one evening, overlooking all of LA, we were sitting there by his pool, and this was the night that really changed my life. And he said, "So what's going on with the sailboat?" I says, "Well, the sailboat is nearly complete. In 2 weeks, I'll be able to put it in the water. I got a loan from the bank, and I'm really excited to get $15,000 to finish it off." And he looked at me and he said, "Why didn't you borrow the money from me? You know I have plenty of money." as I'm sitting in this Bel Air mansion, and I said, "No way, I would never borrow the money from you. You're my girlfriend's grandfather, forget it. I got it from the bank already." He says, no, you can feel comfortable to do that, blah, blah. So this argument went on for 30 minutes about why I could feel comfortable to borrow the money from him. And I'm thinking to myself, what could somebody have the patience to talk for so long about something as boring as that, unless they're doing something like this. That night I drove home to my sailboat, which was on the Avocado Ranch, my father's ranch. And I says, "How do I thank him? He just offered to loan me money to finish my boat, even though I'm not going to take it. I got to thank him for the idea and the belief in me." And so I called his butler and I says, "What was he smoking? What was he enjoying there, overlooking all of LA, patiently talking to me while his guests were inside?" And he told me a Dunhill cigar, a Dunhill Monte Cruz cigar. So I went down to Dunhill for the first time, bought the cigars, made a beautiful little teak portable case that hinged open, and I gave it to him, and he saw my future. 2 weeks later, I gave it to him, and he said, "This is really nice. I love it. I'll use it on the golf course, but if you want, you can borrow it from me, and I'm sure Dunhill will buy it, and you can set up a business, you can sail away and live your dreams." I said, "You're kidding." And I listened to him, took it to Dunhill, and they were enthusiastic, but they said, "I have to go to New York." This was 1982. Never been to New York. Called my brother, "Can I come crash on your floor?" And he said, "Sure." And Dunhill wanted nothing to do with me. I tried to get an appointment. They said, "Forget it. We're not looking for anybody new, no vendors, blah, blah, blah." And so I just went down there the good old-fashioned American way, knock on the door. And the lady answered the door, and she felt sorry for me and begged the buyer to see me, this guy called Carl Barbado. And so I showed him all my cases. I got an audience with him, and he didn't like any of them. He said, "This is okay." I knew he wasn't impressed, as I thought he would be. But he said, "Can you make a cigar humidor?" And I said, "Sure. What's a cigar humidor?" Yep. And he didn't miss a beat, called the store downstairs on Fifth Avenue. They sent up a beautiful humidor in Macassar Avenue with a whiskey bottle on the inside full. Uh-huh. I had no idea the value. It was a Dunhill bottle of whiskey. He says, "Copy this, and if it's good quality, I'll give you an order." Go home, 2 weeks later, come back with a replica of that humidor. And he sat down, he said, "This is great, we're in business, I love it, we have a local supplier now." And he wrote a $250,000 order for humidors. And so I go back to Papa Joe and I said, "Papa Joe, look, I got the order for the humidors." He was laughing so hard, he says, "I told you so." And then we ended up setting up a factory in Santa Ana, and that's kind of like how that accident all happened. And now 35 years today, I have taken that same humidor, which I discovered 2 months ago, buried in dust, covered in 20 years of dust. I thought it was lost, and I uncovered it, and I looked at the very first humidor that I made and that I brought to Dunhill to get the order, and it had that bottle of whiskey on the inside. But guess what? Now that I'm a whiskey fanatic, and I walked in, it was empty. It had the sealed top, and it's empty. So I said, "This is no good. I now have to do a 35th anniversary series." So that's what we did now with my friends at Glenfiddich. Kirsten Grant is the great-great-granddaughter of Glenfiddich, of William Grant, who founded Glenfiddich in Scotland. And she signed every bottle. I signed it, and now it's in the same wood, nearly the same size humidor that we made 35 years ago. So that's being offered. We are doing one on charity right now on a social media platform, Puro Trader, and we're doing it all for charity for After School All Stars. So it's raising a lot of money as we speak, and then we're also offering it for sale as well. But it's really it's been an incredible journey. There's so many different stories as you heard when we did the event in Arizona at Churchill's. So it's kind of like the accident of me getting into the cigar business.
That's a great lesson to a lot of people, because I'm looking at a quote from your website. What was meant to be a gracious handcrafted token of gratitude has since become the ultimate symbol of success and celebration over 32 years. And it shows that how far gratitude can go.
No, gratitude is everything. With showing appreciation and gratitude and a gift, and even the gift of a cigar, the power of the cigar, I call it, and the journey that one can take through their love of cigars, I think is remarkable. I think of all my friends and all my associates in my business, in my life. Everything is because of this, and it's really quite extraordinary. But you're right, it's gratitude, and it's really following the dream. Just all you need to do is have an idea and then a passion and a dream. And then, of course, the sailboat never got done. Never worked another day. Not one day did I work on that boat again. And it turned into a different dream. It turned into, I wanted to be the California surfer craftsman making for Cartier and Tiffany and Hermes and, all these European houses, Gucci and Hermes, Alfred Dunhill, one of many that I worked with over the years. So that was like the dream, and then to be the designer and the creator and maker of luxury goods for Europe. So
well,
a lot of that.
That's kind of curious. That seems like so different from where you started as basically a surf bum. And all of a sudden you got these, you had these ambitions about working with these, tremendous brands, these houses of basically affluence, of fashion, of style. When did that happen? I mean, when did that happen to you in terms from a mental perspective, that you switched from being the surfer guy to the guy who wants to create these works of art for these basically iconic brands in the world?
Well, yeah, it happened really quickly, because all of a sudden I saw a world which I had no idea existed. The world of luxury, the world of beautiful things. I always loved things of great beauty and of things that were old and classic. And so all of a sudden I'm in London, or I'm in this world where you have history and culture and beauty in quality. And that was the deeper kind of resonance in my soul, I think, that wanted me to continue with the humidor business in such a passionate way, and then create all kinds of different things in cigars, and be a part of this world of the top quality. And then also it's a challenge, because I came from a lower middle class family, so it was a kind of a big leap, like you say. And then I had to learn how to be socially comfortable with people who have all the means and that can acquire anything, and then become a great challenge. Like, how can I create something that even a president of the United States would appreciate and love? And that was the reward, to have the work really appreciated on, as much as I did all my surroundings and all the opportunity into them as individuals. Because, as you told me just earlier on your show, you've had extraordinary people from all walks of life. The most famous surgeons, Tim Ferriss, all these interesting people, and the cigars all tie us together. But it's really a remarkable world. We all appreciate the greatest quality, I think. We're connoisseurs of quality, and it's a luxury also. It's a luxury feeling, and we can really enjoy this as a sheikh can enjoy this in the same way. So
yeah, I think there's something. You are right. There is something very, very calming. There is a ritualistic thing that goes along with smoking a cigar and sitting down and having a conversation. And it seems to be the cigar seems to add to the atmosphere, to the depth of the conversation that you have with another individual. And that's one of the things I've noticed for myself, is that when I get together with friends, that when we sit down and have a cigar, that we actually have a conversation that goes beyond the superficial, that goes in deeper into discussing things in our lives, the good and the bad, all that. And part of the big ritual is lighting up that cigar, and also having a little bit of scotch too at the same time. But the cigar is a big part of it. So the metaphor of the campfire is actually very interesting, and that certainly is true of the old days. And you said sitting around a campfire and smoking and then doing that. So let's talk a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about the humidors themselves. What goes into making a good humidor, and then what goes into making a great humidor? What's the difference, and what makes your humidors so special, so wanted, so desired by people that have the ability to really to buy just about anything that they want, and they choose to buy your particular brand of humidors? What makes yours so special?
It's a really good question, and one word I think sums it all up, and it's the word trust. And it's something that is earned, I think, in life. People don't just all of a sudden trust you, just like they trust the content of your show to be very entertaining and fun and interesting and fascinating, and they learn so much, so they tune in. And so the same way with our humidors, I believe that it's a question of trust, and every humidor we make to the ultimate level of quality and ability that we learned through the years through working with luxury good companies. They have set the bar very high. So we all developed, and I developed, and then I taught my team to develop that kind of eye for detail that you don't see, that the normal person wouldn't see. That's why we have a popular program called our private stock sale, which a customer can buy at a deep discount because it has a slight dust underneath the lacquer. You would never see it unless I pointed it out for you, but way we look at those humidors and turn them in the light and reflect and look at every corner and angle, that's not Dunhill quality. That's not the retail top level quality. So it's like it's a feeling that one has when you look at something of top quality. And I think we try to achieve that with every one of our humidors. And in doing so, we've developed trust and a reputation. And people know that if they buy a Daniel Marshall, they're buying an investment that will not only protect their cigars and make them taste better, because cigars do taste better with age and time, but also that they can count on us being around. We've been around 35 years, and we will be there to answer any question they have. And it's like any other brand, I think, and that's what makes us different. Besides the little details of using the best hinges, the best locks, the best digital meters we can find, or using the best woods and the materials, and trying to keep it affordable. Luxury has also been very important. I could charge a lot more for my humidors, and I let the crazy, the crazy prices happen at auction, which we've had our humidors sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. One at Leonardo DiCaprio's event in Saint-Tropez. It was a Governor Schwarzenegger humidor signed by the governor. And there's a really beautiful piece filled with our Red Label Churchill, the exact same cigar you're smoking there, that had Arnold's name, his signature on the cellophane, which he gave out at the Capitol. He gave our cigars out at the Capitol as the gift that Ronald Reagan gave jelly beans and Schwarzenegger gave cigars when he was governor. And so it's half full of those cigars, and then half full of some Davidoff cigars. I called my friends at Davidoff and say, hey, come on, this is going to be historical. So it went for over 300, I think it went for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And recently I did a humidor for Prince Albert II in Monaco, and it sold for $100,000 last September. And on my website, people can see the video of it going up for auction and hammering down at 75,000 euros, which is close to 100. Actually, have one of the Prince loved the humidor so much, he said, Daniel, make me another one. So I have one here, ready to go to Europe. I could show everybody. But what makes it special? It's it's certainly a level of quality and trust, and from a reputable brand. There's many good humidors out there. I think it's just it's the humidors that are great are the ones that hit all more of the quality points. You know, how they close. Also, we're made in America, which is something we're quite proud of. You know, but there are always subtle differences. You want something with a good humidification system. You want a humidor that doesn't warp. You want a humidor that will look the same as it does the day you buy it 30, 40 years from now. And I mean, I won't look the same 30 years ago, but I want a humidor that look the same.
I think I do, but then I look in the mirror and I realize that's not true. So let's, you're talking about the quality. Tell our listeners and our viewers about the 1,000 coats.
Yeah, this came about many years ago, decades ago actually. I thought it would be amusing to see exactly how many coats go on a humidor through that whole 3-month process and 100 individual production steps that we take to make our humidors.
3 months.
Individual steps from, you know, the routing. People have no idea what's involved in making this rectangular box and making it so it closes perfectly and it's all lined up and the lid is flat. But yeah, so one day I said, you know, people ask us how many coats of lacquer do you put on it? And I says, I have no idea. So we went in the spray booth and counted the painter going coat after coat after coat, 3 times in the spray booth over 3 different days. And it was over 1,000 passes because you have to go very light on the paint. That's part of our technique. You know, you want an off the gun finish as much as possible, and then you wet sand it down, and then you polish it. So the better job you do in the paint booth, the thinner the coats and the more even it is, the less work overall you have to do. But we take a lot more coats than a lot of other companies because we go really thin, and we want that surfboard finish. You know, we want all the grain to be filled in. So that's where the 1,000 coat comes from. So it's not just it's actually real.
I mean, I was like going, wow, 1,000 coats. I was like, that was like just an incredible number. You're talking about the manufacturer. Tell me a little bit about how you select the wood for the humidor. How's that?
Well, I'd say about 3 times a year, we ask our supplier of veneer to send us their best samples. We have a certain criteria. I want the widest, I want the highest contrast, depending on what wood it is. If it's Macassar ebony, for example, we want it as dark with as many contrast in veins as possible. We want it with a lot of character. Every piece of wood needs to have a lot of character. So I love characters and having friends as characters, and you know, I think it makes more interesting piece. So Macassar ebony, also it has to be very flat, and we want it as wide as possible. So that's a criteria that we've only been able to really find by this veneer cutter in Germany. So the veneers are all shipped to us from Germany, and they cut it also to our thickness. We want a very thick veneer, where other companies use a very paper thin, like a lot of the China boxes are super paper, like thinner than paper even, but we like it, you know, maybe 20 times that, very thick and substantial. So we choose our veneers that way. The burl is the little ones that looks like a briar pipe that has the little dot, the eyes on it. And that's actually the root of the tree. So that's the hardest to get right now. And one day it will be impossible to get, just because how many trees can you get that are so big and so old and really have a wide root base? Those are rare. And that's our most popular finish, and we're famous for the burl. Precious burl wood is just gorgeous. In each one of those little holes, people don't realize those little dots that you see in the burl pattern, like on the dashboard of Rolls-Royce or Jaguar and on our humidor, is a branch. Had that tree grown up, that would be a branch that is coming out of the tree. So,
wow, okay, I never knew that.
Yeah, we select it. I look at it myself. I say, no, there's not enough. Like in the burl, we like it with a lot of intense eye figure, a pattern. Sometimes you can even see a wave, and you can see all kinds of intensity going on. So we have to select it from a lot of different woods, and we pay a premium. There's 2 people in my world that I will pay them any amount of money. It's the wood supplier. I said, give me the best. And it's the tobacco maker in Dominican Republic and also in Nestor Placencia in Nicaragua. I said, spare no expense on the raw materials. And I learned early on, you can never do that. You can never cut any corner with the cigar or with the humidor. So the marching order is give me the best.
Well, that's why you enjoy the reputation that you have. So everybody always wants to hear what are some of the most exotic humidors you've made for people?
Well, I'd say some of the ones that I'm most proud of are the recent ones that have raised a lot of money for charity. Where I'm at right now, I think the most fun I have is coming up with great experiences with cigars, like I did at DiCaprio Foundation fundraiser last year. We auctioned one off for $100,000, where a group of 6 get to go to the distillery, meet Brian Kinsman and David Stewart and the malt masters of Glenfiddich and Balvenie, meet the great granddaughter of William Grant. I go up there with the cigars. Everybody gets whiskey stave humidors made from the whiskey barrel. And so those are the things I really am excited about and love doing, because it raises money for a great cause, whether it's saving the planet, which DiCaprio's foundation does. He invests in a lot of environmental
things,
research. And you know, I love doing that. Like I did for Prince Albert, that was to help our oceans. And then there's different foundations and charities that we work with, whether it's children or hospital or medicine. And I love it. I love creating that. So those are super fun to create the extraordinary. We're going to do a special humidor for a Steven Tyler event of Aerosmith, that he's going to have a Grammy viewing party. So they asked me, can you come up with an unusual humidor which will tie into the theme of the evening for Grammy night? So maybe we'll make one with his Grammy Awards on the top, or something special he can sign and then auction off. So those are all fun. But as far as kind of like a couple of funny stories that related to our humidors that is cool. I look back, it's hard to believe. But when the actor Marlon Brando called us and heard that we made some of the best humidors, and he was always a big hero of mine, because of course he did Mutiny on the Bounty, and I'm a big sailor, and I went to Tahiti, and he had an island in Tahiti. And so when Marlon Brando calls me and says, Marshall, I want 2 of your biggest humidors you make. And I says, wow, my pleasure. It's our 500 size. We get, got 2 big trays in there. And he says, oh, that sounds perfect. But I said, Mr. Brando, can I ask you, I never saw you with a cigar. I didn't know. I thought I knew all the cigar guys out there. And he says, I don't know cigars, but I'm using it for something else. I said, you got to tell me. Please tell me what you're using it for. So he said, I'm bringing 2 of your biggest humidors down to my island in Tahiti, because my scripts, when I leave them down there and I go down there and read them and look at them in my books, they all get destroyed by the humidity and the weather. So I want your humidors to keep the humidity out.
Oh my. That's funny, to keep them out.
Yeah, that's to keep the humidity out. So, but there's been a lot of funny, interesting stories creating humidors for many different interesting people. And I had a nice run with President Bush when he was given a humidor by an ex-schoolmate from Yale called Edgar Coleman, who used to own General Cigar Company. And General Cigar has Macanudo, Partagas, Cohiba. And so Edgar asked me to make one for President Bush's inauguration. So we really went all out. We made it beautiful, presidential seal on the top, carved, and he loved it so much that his assistant, his body man, called me and says, President Bush wants to order a lot of humidors from you, give his gifts to every visiting president. And so that was a lot of fun creating for the White House for about 4 years. We worked with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know she made a tissue box for President Reagan too.
Yeah, yeah. The tissue box for President Reagan, that was funny. Lee Annenberg, Walter Annenberg's wife, who was secretary, I think he was Secretary of State under President Reagan, and his wife saw the tissue box in a very fancy design house on Sunset Boulevard in LA. And the woman who owns the shop was all excited, saying, "Wow, I'm excited because President Reagan's going to get one of your, it used to be a tobacco jar, a tobacco humidor, but it just happened to fit the tissue box perfectly." So if it box, the world's most expensive tissue box. But she called and she says, "Well, what should we put on the plate? We should engrave it or customize it or something for the president." I says, "Well, you definitely should. All you have to do is say, 'Blow elegantly, Mr. President.'"
Did you put that on there or what? Was that on there?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. So, well, that's great. That's great. When you have a humidor, there's the process of seasoning. Do you need to do that with yours, or yours come pre-seasoned, or how does that work in your particular case?
There is no seasoning with the Daniel Marshall humidor. It's
okay.
Load up your cigars and add the distilled water and add the solution, or our humidors can be used with the Boveda system. There are some people out there, I like the Boveda very much. It's carefree and easy, and you just put in the packets, and there's a special housing that can either have our system in it or the Boveda, so you can use either one. But it doesn't require any seasoning, no prep, because the cigars are ready, and they rest in the humidor. And even though the humidor is building up to say the optimal humidity, it's good that the cigars go there with the humidor as well, and you can enjoy the cigars as that process is happening. You just don't need to put water in it. You definitely don't want to put water on it and wipe it down, because we spend hours and hours sanding the inside of those humidors perfectly baby soft, smooth. And then the minute you put water on it, it will lift the grain and defeat our purpose of the sanding.
Oh, okay. All right. So yours are all ready to go and ready to go. So you also make cigars, and you have a famous gold cigar that you've made and continue to make. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, the transition for cigars was something that took me 2 or 3 years to finally listen to popular demand, because during the 90s and cigar aficionado coming on the scene, it gave us a chance to go around the country, do what's called the Big Smoke. And so Marvin Shankin had these events, and he still does, and they're really great fun, where 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people come together. We get to sample the greatest cigars in the world. You get to meet all the heads of the cigar companies, the creators, the legends, and the icons behind the cigars. And so it gave me a chance to build, all of us a chance to build our own brand because of the cigar magazine, because these big smoke events. And through that process, many people, hundreds of people would come over and say, "Hey, Daniel, you're known to make the best humidor in the world because you're a fanatic freak with quality. Why don't you come up with a cigar? Because we would love it. We'd follow it. We'd enjoy it. We know that you'd make it with the best material." And I'm a big believer of aging. Of course, I know what a humidor can do to a cigar. So we even age our cigars 1 year after they're rolled. That's a requirement of mine. So the transition for cigars happened around 96, 95, 96. And it's something we added on, and I couldn't get enough cigars. I couldn't buy cigars, so it happened through relationships. It happened because I became friends with Manuel Quesada, and those were the days we were drinking around the country with Carlos Fuente and Lito Gomez and Pete Johnson and all my friends and Nestor Placencia. And so I said to Manuel drinking at one bar, I think we were in Washington, D.C. I said, "Manuel, what will it take to get a cigar?" He says, "Well, Daniel, I can't make enough cigars as it is. It's right during the boom, but let's trade. I need some special humidors that we're going to use for packaging of a very limited edition Quesada cigar collection, and I'll make you a cigar." So we traded for about 3 years. We made our own boxes at that time because they couldn't even make enough boxes. We couldn't make enough humidors. They couldn't make enough cigars. It was a crazy time. So that's what got us into the cigar world and having our own cigar. And we've had it rated since 1996. And recently we got a 92 on the cigar you're smoking, the red label. And then about in 2010, Universal Studios came to us and they said, we hear you make some of the best packaging in America. What do you think about the Scarface Blu-ray edition that we're going to launch? And what kind of packaging do you envision would be successful for our relaunch, our launch of Scarface on the new medium of Blu-ray? And so, first of all, who doesn't love the movie Scarface?
Oh, I know. It's a classic. Classic.
And so I'm proud and really honored that Universal, out of with their muscle and might and money, they could choose anybody to work with, and they chose us. And they wanted something far from what they settled on. And I said, guys, there's only one thing you can put that Blu-ray in. It better be a humidor. No, we're not sure. We don't think $1,000. We don't think we can sell a Blu-ray in a humidor. It'd be too expensive. I said, just try it. Go to my customers, see how many they'll buy. Go call Nat Sherman, call different people. I gave them a list of my accounts. So they did that. They did their due diligence, and they said, this is perfect. Let's make 1,000 of them. There'll be $1,000 retail, and people will be able to buy the Blu-ray edition of Scarface in the most expensive Blu-ray packaging ever. So I love the challenge and the possibility of all that. And so they gave us 2 months to make them. We worked night and day. They were all white with the Tony Montana symbol on the top, and it said, "The world is yours" on the front. They sold 200 in Germany and Amazon within 10 minutes. It was crazy. And so now they're really a collector's piece. People call us to the day, I want to buy it, I'll pay any money. But anyway, long story short, you asked about the gold cigar, and the gold cigar came from this, another beautiful accident. And I always tell people, look for the accidents in your life, because the accidents could be the greatest blessing, and you won't even see it. Like, I was so stupid, I didn't see the opportunity with the gold cigar. I didn't even realize what I had created by accident. But so we did the 1,000 Humidors. It was a big hit. And then they had a big party in LA called the Cast Reunion, where Pacino came and Bregman and Stephen Bauer and all the guys from the film. Big red carpet event, all the press. We had 2 cigar rollers. I had the Humidors out, and everybody's having a good time. And the CEO of Home Entertainment, who signed my check on this deal, it was a big check for 1,000 Humidors. I went up to him and said, "Man, I was crossing my fingers. I'm so happy we didn't get this order canceled, because it's, cigars after all, and you're an iconic studio. I would thinking the press was going to come down on you." He said, "No, it was perfect. No one complained. I can't wait to do it again." And I said, he said, "You know what? I need 20 Ultra Bling Scarface Humidors. Can you make them?" I said, "Sure." So I made it like the Tony Montana in Swarovski crystal. I sent it to Germany, and then I put on the front in diamond, blinged out, "The world is yours." So I elevated it a little bit, and I said I was thinking, we got to put in a cigar in there, and it can't be Cuban, it can't be a Daniel Marshall, it has to be something extraordinary, maybe wrap it in money. So I'm drinking with a girlfriend of mine who knew nothing about cigars. We have to listen to our women, because they have some good ideas.
Oh yeah. The old guy knows that.
Yeah, the old guy knows that, and that's probably one of the secrets. To listen to what they have to say. So I was telling her that I got to come up with this great cigar, and she looked at me, and it was all very simple to her. She says, "Wrap it in gold." And I said, "No, can't be done. Forget it. Bad idea. I just made one for President Bush. The gold falls off. It flakes off. You can blow it around. There's no substance to it. It will look really bad. And I don't want to do anything that doesn't look good." And she looked at me, as they do, without missing a beat, and said, "Daniel, I just gave you a good idea. You're going to make a lot of money with that idea." And I cheered her, and I said, "Sure. That's great. Sure I will." Then I drove home that night and says, "You're so stupid. You said, first of all, it can't be done for anything. They can't be done. You're the guy that likes a challenge. What are you? There's got to be a natural way to put that gold on that cigar and make it look good. I don't care if it smokes or if you can use it. I just think it would be great if it looks good." and it's safe, and you could eat it if you wanted. So I developed a special glaze using sugar and it's secret, of course. And I bought $100 worth of gold, and I rolled a cigar in gold. And then I put it in each one of these 20 humidors. I thought that was the end of the story. People would love it. They'd look at it. It's a gold cigar in a Scarface humidor. And but no, that wasn't the end of the story. It shows you never know how these. I didn't realize I had gold mine like right there in front of me. A writer from the Robb Report magazine came by our booth, and I had a Scarface humidor with one of the gold cigars on display. And he said, Rick Hacker's his name. He wrote pipe books, cigar books, greatest guy, most knowledgeable on whiskey and cigars, I think, out there, and really authoritative. And he said, "What's this?" I said, "That's nothing, Rick. That's just a cigar covered in gold. Don't even write about that. Write about this humidor over here that we're doing. It's sterling silver. It's 100 ounces of silver. I'm most proud of that." He didn't get distracted off the gold cigar. He said, "No." He looked at it. He says, "Can you smoke it?" I said, "I have no idea." And he says, "Well, give me one, and I'll take it to my doctor. I'll try it, and I'll let you know. And if depending what I find out, my readers might like this." 2 weeks later, he called me. He said, "Guess what? Your full page editorial in the Robb Report magazine." And I said, "You're kidding. You got to be kidding." He says, "No." I said, "Can you smoke it?" He said, "Yes, you can. And guess what, Daniel? It leaves a golden ash." So that's when it went crazy, of course. That article came out, and then everyone around the world wanted to write about that, from fashion magazines to newspapers, all over, literally all over, from China to India. And then I did some research on the accident that happened. Gold melts at 1200 degrees, and tobacco burns at 600 degrees. So you have the difference there. The burning point is different. And so the tobacco will burn inside the gold, leaving a golden ash. So
wow,
there's the fun of it. And then I never really realized the significance that the cigar could become like a symbol of celebration in the cigar world, and it has. And I knew it. I really felt it in London after we did the launch of the Golden Cigar with Balvenie whiskey. The next day, the manager of the Davidoff, or Edward Shahakian of Davidoff's Lounge, called me, said, "Daniel, you're going to love this story. President Clinton just checked into the hotel, and we sent him up some Cuban cigars. We sent him up a gold cigar, and he wanted to tell you he bought the gold cigar." So if a president of the United States will buy the gold cigar, maybe that's something I should pay a little attention to. And I've done just that, and we're back ordered constantly, like 400 or 500 cigars. And the fun thing is, I make them to the day. I make each one, I sign each one of the boxes, and it's my meditation at night. Like right after I'm going to hang up with you, I'm going to roll some gold cigars. And it's really fun, and it's meditative, and it's not like writing emails or doing anything else. You really can relax into it and be grateful. And I'm really grateful when I'm rolling my gold cigars and thinking, what joy and what kind of people and what are they going to be doing when they buy a $200, $300 cigar and celebrate with it.
Sure. I'm sure you get a lot of letters from clients. Tell me some of the things that they've told you that they've done while they were smoking, or some of the conversations. Do you have any of those you can share, some of the stories about that occurred while smoking some of your cigars, or the gold ones, or just the regular ones?
Yeah, there's a lot of them, and we're actually working on a book right now and going to put some of the most interesting ones in this book. And so hopefully we'll have that ready for people to get in the next 3 or 4 months. But there are so many interesting cigar stories out there. But one in particular, one with the gold cigar, is kind of funny. 2 guys who love cigars went to Ibiza with their friend, and they all were having a bachelor party with 20 guys. And part of the thing is a challenge that they do. So one of the challenges was, hey, the guy, what do they call it? The bachelor had never smoked a cigar before. So they brought 3 gold cigars down to Ibiza. And they said, the challenge is if you can get through your first cigar and it's a gold cigar, you get to keep all the ashes, all the golden ashes. And so this guy was determined to smoke his first cigar, and he smoked a gold cigar, and he enjoyed it all the way down. And so he collected up, scraped up all the gold ashes, put it together, and he made like a little pendant that he wears to remember the bachelor party that they had out of the gold cigar ashes. So that's kind of.
Well, that's fun. That's fun. So we seem to be. You've frozen up on me, Daniel. Can you hear me? Are you? Uh-oh, folks. This is part of doing live interviews. Is sometimes there's I think. Oh, I know what that sound was. So, well, we were kind of coming to the end, Daniel. You've frozen up on me, and so I'm going to close out tonight and say that this has been a spectacular evening. We went to had a lot of discussions about things that I did not anticipate, and we went to places and had a very pleasant discussion as usual, having a cigar, and with Daniel Marshall of Daniel Marshall's Cigars and Humidors. I'm going to post a link to his website with this video audio. Oh, you're back. You're back. You're frozen up for a second there.
Oh, good. All right. Well, I'm back. Well, anyway, where did we lose each other?
We were talking about the gentleman at the bachelor party smoking the cigars and getting the gold ash all together.
Okay. Well, the next story, I was already on to the next story, was the Hurricane Katrina story, where a guy came over to me at the Big Smoke and he said, "I have a testimonial for you." And I said, "Sure. I can't wait to hear it." And he said, "I'm going to send you a letter and a picture about this one that I'm going to tell you." And he told me a story of how he had to leave his home in Louisiana, New Orleans, when the hurricane hit for a week. And he came back a week later thinking, you know, my humidor and my cigars, I'm sure are going to be ruined. And that's my most precious thing that I'm looking forward to, enjoying my humidor and my cigars for more years. And he said he went in the house, looked to the table where the humidor was, it was gone. Couldn't see it anywhere. And then he looked across the room, and it literally was on the floor all the way across the room. And so he walks over there, walks to it with a lot of trepidation, opens it up. The cigars are perfect. He looks at the humidor, turns it upside down. The humidor is perfect. So it became the Noah's Ark of cigars.
There we go. Were there two of each cigars in there?
That's a good one. I'm sure we should repackage that story and make it a special collection. But again, the only way that was possible is because we go the extra step. We take the extra mile, and that's what makes our humidors different. Where the bottom of the humidor, we paint as well. So
okay.
It's fully enclosed with a 1,000 coat finish, where some companies may skimp on that and only put the felt and hide it, but ours is covered. Now, that allowed it to float, and that allowed it to stay waterproof.
That is pretty amazing.
I didn't know that would be important.
So now you have a clunker program. Tell us about that.
Yeah,
How's that work?
I wanted to mention that. You wouldn't believe how popular that is. I'm going to have to get another warehouse and another factory just to store the clunkers that we're getting, and wait till everyone sees the video that we're going to put together. Because what do? We already have an office full of clunkers stacked to the roof. And today my assistant told me, "Daniel, we got one. It really looks good today." I mean, it looks so valuable and expensive. So it's really fun to see what people are sending in. So I had this idea. The federal government, when the car business was suffering, not that we're suffering, I just thought that it was a clever idea. But I'm always thinking, people are saying, I wish I could get a Daniel Marshall humidor. I would like to be able to afford it. It's just slightly out of my price range. So I always wanted to find a way to make that possible for people to be able to jump up to affordable luxury from, say, the Chinese-made humidors. And I remember this program called Cash for Clunkers with the car business.
I remember that. Yep.
Washington spent a couple, I don't know, $1 trillion giving a rebate. You turn in any car you want, and you get, I think, $5,000 or something like that. So I said, why don't we do the same for humidors? Because let them turn in their clunker towards a Daniel Marshall humidor, brand new humidor. So no advertising, no promotion, no social media. We launched it last year on our website, put one page up. All of a sudden, we're getting people. I'm so happy you have this program. I want to turn in my clunker. I've always wanted a Daniel Marshall. And it's been so much fun to make that possible for many, many people where it was out of reach. And so what we do is we give $100 off already a discounted humidor. So we take our private stock humidor that we have, which are, like I say, the littlest tiny dust. You would hardly ever see it unless you have your magnifying glass out. And then we give them $100 off, and we then send them a UPS label for them to send in their clunker. We get the clunker and send them out the humidor, and it becomes very affordable at that point, and we make a very happy customer. And also the stores can participate in it as well if they're willing to handle the clunker. We'll, of course, pay for the shipping, but certain stores want to spend the time to do it. Others don't want to bother, but we're happy to do it through the store as well. So it's a fun program, Cash for Clunker, C for C.
So in your art, in your business of making humidors, what has stayed the same over the years, and then what has changed with technology? What things have been kind of like just you do it that way and that's the way it's done, versus we have better technology? How does that fit into you?
That's interesting. I really appreciate that question a lot, because looking back over 3.5 decades, there certainly are certain operations which we could do differently, maybe more efficiently, but I believe would compromise the overall feel and quality of the Daniel Marshall humidor. It would take away from what really we're known for. And you can do that with technology and certain production steps. We could have a machine do versus a person. But I believe that some of the old traditional ways are the best ways. Rather than have a laser machine cut out a seal or presidential logo or whatever we're doing, have it hand carved. And I have a master carver that works with me. And why compromise? Why do it with machines? Let's do it in a traditional sense, a traditional way. So there's certain things, and I know in other businesses, whether you're making fine like beautiful cars, a Rolls Royce, there's certain handmade, certain kind of traditions which never change. Even making the gold, where I buy the gold for the gold cigar, I buy it in Florence in Italy. And I went, and guess what? They're not using modern machinery. They're using the same machinery that Leonardo da Vinci designed. So the same technology, where they could use like the fancy Japanese-made machinery for the gold, but it's not the Manetti gold. It's not it's not that same look. It's not the same purity. It's just not the same feel. So there's certain operations that we do the same that we did 35 years ago, and certainly the same eye the critical eye that we look at every humidor and every cigar with. And then there's the technology side, which is very exciting. And that really became a huge contrast when I discovered the humidor that I made 35 years ago. When I opened that humidor up and saw the humidification that we used to do for Dunhill, we used to make little vials with little gold tops, put maybe 3 in a humidor, 100 size humidor, 100 cigars. You know that's not enough humidity for the cigar. 3 little vials with a gold top, but that was the standard, and that was acceptable at the time. And leap forward to today, we have the Boveda, for example, as the super convenient, super high-tech, all automated, two-way system where you can we use that now in our humidor. So that is certainly one way that technology has benefited us, as well as the digital meters and all. So it's always the contrast of the change in humidification system, I think, is the greatest over the decades.
Okay. What do you see as the future for humidors and cigars, and what do you think is going to be happening in the next 5-10 years? It's going to be different in this area.
Maybe call me an eternal optimist, but I am always enthusiastic about our industry and our business, and I think it's because it's I'd say most of the players in this business do it because they love it. And I think when you love something, you'll always find a way to continue, and there'll always be a customer that appreciates what we do. And the handmade cigar is an example of something that a machine can't do, because you don't get the same taste, you don't get the same draw, you don't get the same feeling with a machine-made cigar. So I'm really enthusiastic for the future of handmade cigars and humidors, and the whole idea of savoring a cigar is not going away. I have to admit, there was maybe 20 years ago, and 20 years ago, I used to say to my accountant, I'm out of business. I did it. I made all the humidors that could possibly be made. I've sold humidors to every cigar lover out there in the world, and I can't imagine how to create a new, interesting design humidor. And he laughs at me and says, just keep doing it. Keep going back to the factory. You're making money. Don't think about it. And he was right. Every year, though, I would think that it was over. I don't think that anymore, because the ideas for new designs, whether it's a passion for Cuba collection with tiles, or old vintage license plates, or humidors of all shapes, kinds, and themes, it just doesn't end. And I have a laundry list of things I want to do for this year, of new humidor collections and new cigar collections. So I'm very enthusiastic, not only in this country, but in Europe. I'm really excited that our cigars stand up against Cuban cigars, and we're in hundreds of shops in Germany and France and England, and places where people have the opportunity to buy Cuban cigars. It's also kind of a quirky challenge. I always love to make sure our cigars can stand up against, and be sold alongside Cuban cigars, and be chosen in a shop that does sell Cuban cigars. And then to see the success of our humidors and cigars around the world, and to see Vietnam picking up on the cigar passion, and emerging countries and economies and the young loving the idea of cigars. It's not alcohol. This is better for your health, and I mean, this will keep us alive longer, is my philosophy. And my doctor will concur, and I'm sure you have, because anything that combats stress, anything that's soothing, anything that relaxes us is good for us. And the way we taste cigars, and we don't inhale, and the smoke never goes beyond our taste buds, is huge. And that makes cigars so different than anything else. And I'm really excited for the future, and see a great interest in cigars with younger generation and with women. And because, women is another fun area to work on and do events with. And as the event you came to, there was quite a few women there loving the cigar. And, that's right. And they felt comfortable to drink their whiskey. They were drinking whiskey and cigars, and that is something all you women should try. And because there's nothing you can't do, and certainly enjoying cigars and whiskey should not be one of them, because it's one of the last things, I think, that are still out there, where a lot of ladies say, no, that's for the guys, that's too nasty, and I can't do that. Yet they're running countries, and they're going into space, and women are doing everything we're doing. And if only wait till they discover the joy
cigars. Well, maybe you should consider a lipstick-themed cigar.
I think the best cigar is one where the woman's lipstick is all over the end.
So, we're talking about how it's such a popular, such a ritual, and I don't mean to to kind of go on a sour note, but there is a war against cigar places. I mean, I was 10 years ago. I remember I was visiting a friend in San Antonio, Texas, and they just passed laws, and they were closing down a cigar bar in San Antonio, Texas. And it was really sad. It was just a sad event. I was in Vancouver, and I mean, you would think that you were buying opioids the way they had to restrict smoking. You couldn't even smoke a cigar in a cigar store in Vancouver. I found it very oppressive in that regard, and how do you feel about that? What do you think we can do to combat that kind of war on cigar smoking?
Yeah, it's a pressure, and we all feel it. As you know, us in the cigar industry, we had to register all our cigars with the FDA, and I got a letter just yesterday confirming our labeling proposition that we sent to them, and we're now under many of the same regulations now that cigarette companies are under, and of course, we don't have the kind of deep pockets or industry that can support the kind of reporting and the kind of, like you say, restrictions and pressure that they're putting to bear on us. Yet I'm determined to make it through, and I'm excited because our cigars are all grandfathered in previous to the deadline of 2007. So I'm happy to pay the fees because I know I won't have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars that some companies will have to pay if they want to stay in the game to register their cigars with the FDA. But as far as locations and having shops being forbidden, yeah, it's quirky and it's weird and it doesn't make any sense. And I don't believe it will last because it just is so out there, especially when you compare it to what's happening with cannabis and marijuana and all these, the proliferation of, the ability to buy marijuana. It's easier almost than cigars now. And if you're smoking a joint and you're smoking a cigar, believe me, we're the zero and that guy is the hero. I mean, it just is so funny how we are targeted. But it can't last because people will just realize that, it's a ridiculous, I think it's just a ridiculous law and ridiculous government, situation where a lot of the politicians enjoy cigars themselves. So it's a cultural taste kind of weird time right now. But as Steve Jobs said, it's all about culture and taste. And I like to think that it's going to change. And I'd like to think that would evolve into more of a come back to reason, come back off the curve. And what's interesting on the other side is I see top hotel brands like Four Seasons and different places. I could name them, are now building cigar lounges in their marquee hotels around the world. So it's super exciting because their customer wants to be able to enjoy a cigar in a comfortable environment where they have great ventilation. And so they're building these lounges. And I think that's kind of like a nod to saying, well, we have the ability to do this. We're going to do this and regardless, and it's always interesting. You go to a place like France and they may have that on the rules that you can't smoke, but trust me, there's no less smoking going on. I see more cigarette smoking than ever in France over the years. So people are just going against what the government is trying to say. So I think there could be like a little revolution, rebellion, the Boston Tea Party, if you will, towards the situation, because it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't pan out, and it is sad and unfortunate. But it's not going to stop us, and we'll find a way. We'll find a way to work with the law and be able to enjoy our cigars in a respectful way, which I believe most cigar lovers do. We all, I think, enjoy our cigars respectfully.
Sure, I sure do. We sure do. Well, Daniel, I want to thank you. This has been a wonderful conversation. It went places that I did not imagine. when I started this conversation with you today. It was certainly learn a lot about humidors, learn about cigars, learn about a lot about you and your journey into becoming a iconic humidor and cigar maker. And it was a pleasure to meet you. And I want to say thank you for coming on the Old Guy Talks show and sharing your wisdom and your knowledge about cigars and humidors. And we look forward maybe to doing it again sometime in the future.
You got it. It's been my great pleasure, and I can't wait. Hopefully, we all can meet together in person and do this. Maybe have a virtual cigar night.
I'm all up for it. You just let me know. I'm all up for a virtual or in-person cigar time. You name it, and I'll be there. So I want to thank you again. Thank you for spending time with us. This is Oris the Old Guy from www.oldguytalks.com signing off. Remember, opt in, and you're going to get my 3 ways of how to get laid without begging. Without begging. No need to turn in your man card, gentlemen. There's nothing more pathetic than a man begging. Is that right? You don't want to be a man begging. So take care, and remember, it's all about creating a kick-ass life. That's right, folks. It's about creating a kick-ass life for yourself and those you love. Opt in and encourage other old guy assholes like you to opt in also.